Today on The Joy of Editing, it's TK Friday, and today I'll be doing a full edit. I'm entitling this one, Making Waves. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and welcome to yet another TK Friday. Thank you all for joining me again today. Today, TK Friday goes to the ocean, and today's image is by Mozzam Hosein. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, and if I'm not, please forgive me. And by the way, if you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, you can save 15% off the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, along with training videos. Use my promo code DK15. That gets you 15% off of everything. Not only are you saving money, but you're supporting the joy of editing with Dave Kelly when you use that promo code DK15. So thank you all for using my promo code. I really appreciate it. Well, let's go ahead and edit this image. As always, I start out in Lightroom. Today I'm using an Adobe Color profile. I usually use a linear profile because that's the way I like to start. But I think I had a comment last week and somebody said, what happens if you use like an Adobe Color profile and then do your balance and contrast? So today I thought I would show you how that works as well. So I'm using the Adobe Color profile, and then I just click Auto, and then I just make sure I'm not clipping my white or my black point. And then I'll just adjust the whites and blacks accordingly just to get rid of clipping. Other than that, I don't touch anything else because I want to go into Photoshop with as little editing as possible here in Lightroom because I like to save all the heavy hitting for the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. Okay, and then I always use lens corrections, remove chromatic aberrations, and enable profile corrections. And this is a very low ISO image, ISO 64, long exposure, which I love long exposures. And especially on water shots. And then, of course, I always use just a little bit of sharpening here, and I have no noise reduction whatsoever. So that's it. So the next thing I would do is right-click on the image, go to Edit In, and Edit in Photoshop 2023, but I'm already there. Hold on a second, I almost forgot to tell you, you can download the PDF notes, which will give you all the steps of this editing process, as well as the image. You'll find those Dropbox links in the description below this video. Just click on More or Show More to open up the description. If you don't do that, you won't see these links. So go ahead and do that and give this edit a try. This is a great way of introducing yourself to the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. And each week I use new techniques, a lot of the same techniques, but new ones. So it's a great way of learning. Now, let's go ahead and jump into this edit and make some waves. For me, a great starting point for every image is to do a balance and contrast to kind of even things out on the image. A lot of times on a landscape image, I'll do the foreground separately from the background. In my first step, I like to call setting yourself up for success. So what we're going to do, we're going to save out a sky mask as a channel, a foreground mask as a channel, and a midtones 3 mask as a channel. And I'll show you how I do that. And then I'll show you how we use them for balancing and contrast. The first thing we're going to do is come up to the multi-mask panel and click on the first button for luminosity masks. And we're going to save out a midtones 3 mask as a channel. Now, the reason for midtones 3, it protects the darkest shadows and the brightest highlights from getting clipped. That's all I really use it for here, but it's very important. So here is the mask right here, the midtones 3 mask. And all we need to do is click this button right here to save. And what we want to do is give it a name, and I'm going to call mine Mids 3 and click OK. And now you can see right down here in channels, it is saved out as a channel. Now I don't need the luminosity mask buttons anymore, so I'll click this X and we'll go back to just the multi-mask interface. And now what I want to do is come to either the combo panel, the TK9 combo, or CX panel. I like to keep both of mine open at the same time. Both of these panels are the same, they're just laid out differently. And now what we need to do is save out a sky channel. So if you're on a Mac, hold your Command key down. If you're on a PC, hold your Control key down. Now this is something new to the TK9 plugin for Photoshop. When you hold either the Command or Control key down and click on the sky button, it will save that out as a channel, which is really quick, and I really love this new feature. Now you'll notice we have a sky selection. So again, hold your Command or Control key down. This time, double click the sky, and now you're going to have a foreground channel. And that's really quick and easy. And now you'll notice we still have a selection here, which we can utilize that because we're going to be using a color grading tool. Whenever you have an active selection and click on the color grading tool, that active selection is applied as a layer mask to the color grading tool. And now, do you remember this MIDS 3 mask that I saved out in channels? We're going to use that. And the way we use it is we come up to either the combo or CX panel and click on the mask calculator. Now, we're going to do something here. Hold your command or control key down and click on the mask calculator. Actually, I'm going to use this one. Here's one of the reasons why I keep two panels open, because I can use this for the buttons and I can use this for the mask calculator. So let me click on the mask calculator button by holding my command or control key down. That'll keep this open. And then what we'll do is we're going to click on Midtones 3. Now, I want to intersect it in this white area right here. So MIDS 3, and if you click on the X, that's an intersection. Plus for add, minus for subtract, X for intersect. The white block applies a mask to a layer, and the dash circle loads a mask as a selection, and the trash can will delete the mask that you have highlighted in channels. So we're going to click on X for intersect, and you'll see right there, and if I click this double arrow button, you can see there's my mask inside of the foreground. The Midtones 3 to protect shadows and highlights from clipping. Click the double arrow button again, and now we can see the image. And now we can make some adjustments. I'm going to start out with shadows, so we'll click this button right here. And this is a brightness slider. I want to darken the shadows, so I'm going to drag this to the left. Now, you don't see anything happening until you release the click, but I'm going to take mine over to a -20. Now we're going to go to midtones. And for the midtones, I want to open up the midtones, so I'm going to drag this to the right, and I'm going to take it over to right here. +24, and now we're going to work on the highlights. So let's click on this button right here, and I want to open up those highlights, and I'm going to drag this to the right and take it right here, +38. So check it out. Here is my before, and here's my after. And by the way, you can use this button too to shut any layer on or off, and I believe when you use this button to shut the layer on or off, it doesn't require a history state. Before we move on to the sky, I felt the rocks were getting a little too dark with that shadow adjustment. So what I'm going to do is click this double arrow button to see the mask. And with a black brush, you can just click this button right here to get a black brush. And make sure you're at 100% opacity. You can type your 0 key. And now with a nice soft edge brush, let's just paint over these rocks like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. Mainly those shadow areas I'm trying to get out of there. So just make sure you don't get into the water. You can leave the edges intact, but just be careful. See up along here, that nice soft edge brush is going to do the trick just like that, and click the double arrow again to get back to your image. And now we can take a look. Here is the before and here's the after. See, the rocks are not being affected. And it's always important to pay attention to these little details. Now let's move on to the sky. We need another color grading tool, so click the plus on the color grading tool. That adds another color grading tool. Now the mask calculator is still open, so what we're going to need is a MIDS 3. We're going to click this button to apply it right to the layer. You see that right there? And now we're going to click on sky. And what we need to do is intersect the sky with the Midtones 3 mask. So click on the X for intersect, and now we can see if I click the double arrow, now we have the sky intersected. I'll be color grading the sky as well as adjusting the balance and contrast. So let's do the balance and contrast first. I'm going to start out with shadows. And I want to darken up the shadows to a -58. Now we're going to go to midtones, and I'll pull the midtones back to a -53. Now we're going to go to highlights, and I also want to pull those highlights back to a -23. Now we're going to do some color grading. We're going to start with shadows first. And I actually warmed up the shadows, and you have to experiment here, but to change the color grade, see your cursor, you just give it a click wherever you want it to go. And I just start to experiment like this. But I'm going to go ahead and type in the number that I actually used, which, to be honest with you, was this number. I just looked at my notes. It's 040401. That is the number I used for my color grading. So I don't have to change that. Now let me click on the midtone button. And now I'll type in this number from my notes. And that number was 2F345C. And then you click this button here to apply that. And so what I did was added some blue tone to my midtones. And now we're going to click on highlights, and I'll click this field and enter my number. and that number was C59B1C. So you just highlight this field and then you just type in your number and then you click this button to accept it. And there's my highlights. So here's my before. Well, let's use this button. Here's the before and here's the after. But I had to do some pretty crazy color grading here to get this to look right. Now this color grading tool works with a curves adjustment, but look at that adjustment, how complicated it is. It was easy to do on here, but if you had to do this on a curve, it would be nigh impossible to get this accurate and to get the job to look this way. It's pretty amazing. I love this color grading tool. Now remember, to color grade, just choose a button here, shadows, midtones, or highlights. Click on the button and then just point your cursor to the area of the color wheel that you want to color grade to and just left click with your mouse, and you can keep experimenting till you get that color grade just the way you want it. It's very simple to use. The next thing I want to do is increase the saturation in the yellow area of the sky. So what we need to do is X out of the color grading tool. Nothing changes here. We're going to use a color mask, so click this button on the multi-mask panel. And what we want to do is choose a color in the sky that represents that tone, like maybe right around here. And we'll click OK. And now you can see our mask. And then what I want to do is just take this brightness slider and brighten that selection up to somewhere right about here. Now you see my rocks here. I don't want those rocks. So what we can do is we could take care of those. All of these tools highlighted in gray are for modifying masks. You have a levels, a curves, and then you have brushes. But I'll use a black brush and I'll paint the rocks away. I'll make my brush a little bit larger at 100% opacity. And all I want to do is paint off these rocks, because I don't want to bring up any saturation in these rocks at all, just in the sky itself. Just like that. That's really easy, isn't it? And now we need to output it to a hue saturation adjustment layer. So click this button, and now we'll see there's that mask on the hue saturation adjustment layer. And what I want to do is increase the saturation. So I'll drag the saturation slider on master to the right, to like right here. I was at 54. Here's the before and here's the after. And then the other thing I did was increase the lightness a little bit. So I took my lightness up to like a +7 right there. So again, here is my before and here's the after. See that? It just increases that little bit of saturation up there in the sky, and I really like it. But I'm not done. That was master. Now I'm going to yellows, and I'm just going to increase that yellow saturation. See, some of those oranger tones are coming out there. Isn't that cool? And so I took that up to like 40. So now here we go. Here is the before and here is the after. It's really looking good so far. By the way, if you still have your mask calculator open up and you need to get back to your buttons, just click the X and that'll get you back to your buttons, just in case you're wondering. The next thing I want to do is just darken up the sky just to close it off, just to keep the viewer into the frame here. And to do that, I'll get a curves adjustment layer. So we'll click this button on the multi-mask panel. I want to put a black mask on it to hide what I'm going to do. Nothing is happening there, by the way, just yet until I click multiply. Now, if I had a white mask here, you'd see the entire image go dark. But what we're going to do is use a gradient tool, a live gradient. So click the gradient button on your tool panel for the gradient tool. Make sure you have it set for gradient and not classic gradient. That's the live gradient. And then see the drop down menu right here. Click on this and click on basic and click the third button to the right. And that gives you the black and white gradient. And now all we need to do is to draw a gradient. So I'm just going to click right outside the canvas, like right here. I'm going to click and drag down and see how that gets dark. Now, if you hold your shift key down, you can constrain this to go straight. And I'm just going to pull it down to say somewhere right about here. And then you can adjust the gradient with this diamond here. You see that, how we can adjust this, how it graduates off. And I want it to be up at the top, like somewhere like right about there. Now you'll notice these clouds get really dark and they don't look natural. So what we'll do is use some blend if. And I just love the blend if on TK9. So we're going to use this button right here. So click this button. And this lets you edit your blend if on the actual layer itself. And all I'm going to do is click the lights one button, and that'll just keep the gradient on the lights of the image. You see that? And now those clouds look a lot more natural. I would like this area to be a little darker, since adding lights 1, it's not quite as dark, so we can double up this layer. And to do that, it's simple. On the combo panel, click this button. On the CX panel, click this button. And that will just duplicate that layer. And the blend diff goes with it. So now here's the before and here's the after. And that's a little too strong, so I'm just going to take this top layer and pull it back to somewhere, right around here. So here's without the sky being closed off, and here it is with it. And there we go. Now we're moving on to the next step. And the next step is to dodge the light areas in the water. And to do that, we need to X out of the blend diff. And now we got the multi-mask panel back. And now we're going to use a zone mask. So I'm going to click this button right here for the zone mask. And now we need to find a tone that represents the area we want to lighten. And I think I'll take a tone like right here. Just click on that. There's that tone right there. And we're going to click OK. And now we can see the mask. And now what we're going to do is tighten that selection up by just dragging the slider over to somewhere right about here. And now we can lighten it up with the brightness slider. And I think right there looks good. I'm going to take this slider and just move it over a little bit more to the left just to see. And maybe somewhere right around there. I think that's good. Now we just need to output this mask. I'm going to use a dodge tool. I usually use the left side of the dodge tool for 50% gray layer. But this time I'm going to use the right side for the transparent layer because I have a reason for that, which you'll see coming up here in a little bit. So let me click on the right side. And now I'm dodging through a selection, and you can tell by my selection indicators here. Right now my opacity is at 100%. I'm going to type my 1 key to go to 10%. And all I want to do now is, in this area here with the smaller brush, I'm just going to start to paint over some of these lighter areas in here. You see how they're lightening up? Just want to get these guys a little bit lighter. Be careful here. You don't want to overdo this. We always have our gray brush that we can use for blending and fixing mistakes by erasing them. And you can increase your opacity if you want to erase more or leave some of it in, like for blending purposes. Now I'm making my brush smaller and just painting over these areas here. Now, if you lift your brush and paint again, you'll add more of the lightening effect. So you can lift and just look for light areas. You don't have to get them all. Now, this takes a little bit of time, but it's a lot of fun. But you just choose what you think you want lightened or not. Now, the dodge tool is using a white brush. And like I said, if you need to erase anything or blend, use the gray brush. And you can get your brushes right up here. This is going to take me a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, finish this. I'll be painting up in here, all over this water here, and I'll show you the result here. I'll get right back to you in a split second. And I am back. So here's the before, and here's the after. Now you can see it's over everything. Now this area here is a little too strong, so I'm going to click on this gray brush, and I'm still at 10%. I'm just going to paint over this here a couple times, like right there and there. See how that just tones that down a little bit? Again, the before and the after. And now what I want to do is Command or Control click on this layer. And when you do that, you'll load that as a selection. Now it says warning, no pixels are more than 50% selected. I'm just going to click OK. And now I'm going to output that to a hue saturation adjustment layer. And right now we can see the mask on there. And if we click the double arrow button there, you can see those are all the areas that I've dodged. But now I've created a mask by Command or Control clicking on here, and that's where this transparent layer comes in, because what I want to do is reduce any saturation off the areas that I've painted by just dragging this down to the left. I'm just taking it the whole way off, making sure I don't have any color cast on any of these areas I painted. And now what I want to do is lighten those up a little bit more. Now remember, I created this mask from the area I dodged by Command or Control clicking on it, so I can use this lightness slider. This is a neat little tip for you. I can use this lightness slider and it will only target the areas that I've already dodged. So check it out when I turn this up. You see how that's lightening that up more, so that's pretty cool. So I think I'm going to take it to maybe around like 19, plus 19. Here's the before and here is the after. So that's a little extra lightening. If I shut both of these layers off, this is before dodging and here is after. I think I am a little too strong, so I will pull this back. On my notes, I had this around an 11. Let's try 13. Now I'll follow up the dodging with some burning, which will really bring out some nice effects in this water. I'll use a zone mask again, so we'll click on the zone mask button, and I want to target a darker tone, and I think maybe like a tone like right around here. Click OK, and now I want to really tighten this up. So I'm going to pull this way in so I really just target those darker tones. I may move this over a little bit, somewhere right around here I think is good. And I want to lighten this up just a little bit to somewhere right around there. And now we're going to output this to a burn tool. You can use either side here. I'm not going to really be doing nothing but burning, so I'll just use the gray side this time. On my notes, I use the transparent side, but either side will work. It's fine. And now I think I'm going to use a little stronger opacity. I'm going to type my 2 key. Right now I'm at 10% opacity for my brush. This will get me to 20% by typing the 2 key. And all I want to do here is I have a nice small soft edge brush. That's the important thing, soft edge. And every time you lift the brush and paint again, it'll make it a little bit darker. So I'll just get this started just to show you what I'm doing here. I'm just looking for dark areas in here. And again, you don't have to get them all. You make the choice which ones you want, what you think will help the image. So I'm just going to go over dark tones, and you can reduce the opacity if it's too strong, but I think this is going to be good. But you get the idea, right? So I'm just looking for dark areas that I want to darken down with that nice soft edge brush. And this will bring out some depth and dimension in your image. So this is a lot of fun, but take your time. This is the joy of editing, Have some fun. If you're not having fun, why are we doing this, We don't want to be frustrated. We want to have some fun. So, okay, so I got that far going. Here's what I got so far. Here's my before and here's my after. Now let me finish it off and I'll get right back to you. And I am back. So let's check it out. Here is the before, and now here is the after. Again, the before and the after. Now, again, I can grab my gray brush, and if some areas I was a little too strong, I'm at 10% now, I can come and just blend. You see that? Tone some of the areas down. So don't worry if you messed up in certain spots. You can always come back here and blend over things and just make it look really good. This gray brush is super, super handy, and it'll really help you out. So it's really cool. So again, here is the before and here's after, but doesn't that dodging and burning really bring out some nice effect in this image? I'm going to make my brush a little bigger. The gray brush, I still think, I don't like this right here. I think that doesn't blend well right there, so I can just kind of blend that in just to make that look a little more natural. But it takes some time to get used to dodging and burning, but once you start doing it, and believe me, practice does really help out here. Don't be afraid of this. It's really fun. We're going to do some freehand dodging and burning coming up. I always like to start out with that zone mask approach. That way it kind of gives you training wheels to make sure you just stay on the tones that you want. Now when you're freehand, you have a brush and you're the master, and you have to watch where you're actually dodging and burning. I'm going to start with dodging. Right now I still have a selection, so if we click this button on the combo panel, or you could use this button on the CX panel to deselect. Now we're going to come here and grab a dodge tool. I'm just going to use 50% gray. I'm going to click on the left side. Now I'm at 10%. I'm going to go down to a really low opacity because we have no selection to help us control ourselves. So I'm going to do an 0.5, and that gets me 5%. And now again, I'm going to start this out with a nice small brush, and I'm just looking for areas I really want to target and highlight. Little areas that kind of make this image sing, so to speak. I'm not going to get everything, but just little areas. And remember, you still have that gray brush that you can work with. So I'm just, targeting little areas like this. Okay. And like over in here, maybe I want to make that sing a little bit. Make that sing. Helps to sing as you're doing this. Okay, so down into here. But this is fun. This is one of my favorite things to do when I'm editing images. This really brings me a lot of joy. It's a lot of fun. We can even come out into here into some of these little areas and zing a little bit of light out in there with our dodging. Okay, so here's what I got so far. Here's before and here's after. Okay, I'm going to stop the video, finish this off, and I'll get right back. And I am back. So right now you don't see the freehand dodge, but now let's turn this layer on. So here it is with the dodging. What do you think? I mean, it really adds just, some little areas you want to bring out. In fact, maybe right here, I just might want to lighten this one up. I'll just get a couple more. And the reason I pause the video, I don't want to waste all your time because this takes a while to actually do this. But like I said, it is a lot of fun. So there we go. Again, here's the before and here's the after. I like it. What is next? Burning. How about burning? Let's do some freehand burning. Now to burn, let's grab a burn tool. So that's this little hand here. So the left side is 50% gray, the right is transparent. It doesn't matter. Either side will work. I'm going to use a 50% gray because I like it. It sets you up with a black brush. Now I'm at 5% opacity. Let's try that. We'll just start and darken some areas up here. Okay. And if you want it to be a little stronger, you can increase the opacity. But again, I just want to start us off here and just show you what I am doing. And I'm just looking for little areas. So again, it adds a little bit of depth and dimension. Some of these darker areas out here, I'll lift my brush and paint over them a couple times up in here, out in here. How about out into this water out here? I'll just go a little longer here so you can see what I'm doing. Maybe in here I'll just darken some areas up in here a little bit. Maybe down along the edge here. Isn't this cool? It's so much fun. You got to try it. Please try this. I guarantee you'll like it. Try it, you'll like it. All right, let me go ahead and finish it off. And I'll pause the video. But first, here's what I got so far. Here's the before and here's the after. So before and after. I'll keep going and I'll be right back. And I am back. So here it is before the extra freehand burning, and here it is after. So again, before and then after. And you know what? I forgot to do some dodging up on these rocks here, which will look really nice. So let me go back to the freehand dodge layer, which is this layer right here, and grab my white brush. So click on the white brush button. And I'm still at 5%. I'm going to go to 10% and test this out. Let me type the 1 key, and I'm just looking for light areas in here. Like so. Again, to build a little depth and dimension in here. I'm not going to touch the dark areas. I'm not going to burn, because I think dodging is all I need, because it's already really dark here. There's not a lot of light hitting over here. And I don't want it to look unnatural, so I just want to add a little bit of light here and there, like that. So let's take a look. So just look at the rocks here. Here's the before and here's the after. See how that just brings out some depth and dimension in there? And again, if you're too strong, just grab your gray brush, and I'm going to go down to 0.5, which is 5%. And maybe I'm a little too strong right here, so I'll just paint over that and maybe paint over this area. But you get the idea, right? It's so easy to blend with that gray brush. Pretty cool. So again, look at the rocks. Here is the before and here is the after. I really like that. Now we're going to do a freehand vignette. We're almost done. 2 more steps, a freehand vignette. Click on the TK Actions button. And then before we actually click freehand vignette, we need to draw a lasso around the area that we want to vignette. Okay, so I'm going to type my L key to get my lasso tool. So I'm going to go right around like this, because this is the area of light in here that I want to protect, and I want my vignette to be on the outside. And now we click the freehand vignette action. And I always take the Gaussian blur just the way it is and click OK. Now I do want to protect the deepest shadows, so we're going to use the Edit Blend If. So it's this button right here, and I just love this button. Let me know in the comments section below what you think of Edit Blend If. It's really cool. Now I usually like to try No Darks 1, just to protect the darkest darks. Here's No Darks 1, and here is No Darks 2. I like to try them both. And in this case, I think I like No Darks too. But check this out. Here is the before, and here is the after. So it's letting us go right into this beautiful light that's happening right in here. The last thing I want to do is just tone down this area on the water here. I think it's a little too bright. It doesn't look quite right. I just want to tone it down a little bit. I think I'll use a color mask. I'm going to X out of the blend if, edit blend if, so I can see my multi-mask panel again. Click on the color mask button, and I want to target this tone like right about here and click OK. And that's targeting that rather nicely. And I think I'll lighten it up just a little wee bit with this brightness slider to somewhere right about there. Now I only want this area right here. So what I'm going to do is grab my lasso tool. I'm typing L to get the lasso tool. And I'm just going to lasso around this area right here. It's really selected really well. Just come right around it like this, and we can use the mask button right here. So click on this. This has changed in the new TK9 panel. There used to be feathering on here, but Tony decided to default it at the default value of 0.1, basically no feathering, which in this case I don't need feathering. If you do, you can drag this slider to the right and just click OK. And there we are, we're targeted. And now we just need to output this. I'm going to output this to a hue sat adjustment layer, because I'll be working with the color. I mainly want to darken this down, but I want to work with the color as well. So what I'll do is take the lightness slider and I'll drag this to the left to tone that down to somewhere right about here. See how it tones it down? But now it's lost a little bit of saturation, so I can give it some more saturation here. I don't want to go too crazy, but I think I'll take it up to maybe like a +5, I think is good. So here is the before and here's after. See how that really helps that out? Now let's take a look at the overall before and after. So we can use our new button on the TK9 combo panel or CX panel, whichever you prefer. Click this button. You'll see here's where we started from and here's where we ended up at. And I'm really happy with this. Now you could take this one step further. If you felt this was a little too dark, I don't. I really like the way it is, but we're all different. We all like things differently. So if you wanted to add a little bit of mid-tone brightness, what we can do is come up to the luminosity mask button, click on that, click on midtones 1 for just a basic mid-tone brightening. This is one I always like to use. I'll put this to a curves adjustment layer. Nothing will happen. And now what we'll do is just click on the screen blend mode button right here. And you see how it lightens up the midtones. Now usually what I would do is take this the whole way off the opacity and just build it up slowly. So you can maybe add like maybe 27%. Here's before and here's after. Or you could drag the opacity up more if you want more. So that is basically it. But I like mine the way it was, so I'm going to shut this off. But I just wanted to add that just in case you want to lighten it. Well, there it is, everyone. Another TK Friday comes to a close. I hate when that happens. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial today. If you did, please give it a try. Don't forget to download the image and the PDF notes. Dropbox links are in the description below this video. If you enjoyed today's tutorial, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe and click that bell notification icon. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.